Halo, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Balqis Nurul Nikmah, and I'm from Accounting Study Program, Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta. And right now, I'm going to present my thesis, final of final result of my research with the title The Effect of Non-Performing Loans, Loan-to-Deposit Ratio, and Capital Adequacy Ratio on Profitability with Allowance for Impairment Losses as Moderating Variables. And my lectors is Dr. Randa Ekti Gulandrawati and Mrs. Santi Susanti. And we're going to the chapter 1, the introduction. So this is the research background. As we know, banking plays an important role in the wheels of the country economy by carrying out its intermediary function. The function of bank intermediation it is to provide service for depositing funds and lending in responsible and professional manner. And from its main activity, the bank will have an income as its main income in making profit. And as we know, profitability will describe the extent to which a bank is able to manage its productive assets, so that the sustainability of the bank, both in the short and long term, uh, will depend on the level of profitability of the bank. And yes, the banking is a financial institution that has important role in the wheel of country economy, from the micro side as well as micro. And in carrying out its operation to make a profit, the bank has two sources of income, namely interest income based on spread and non-interest income or fee-based income. So the operating income is important for the bank to run operational. Through the income, the bank will able to make a profit that's reflecting a good bank performance. So that profitability is a benchmark for investor in evaluating performance company because it reflects the success of its operational activity the company has done. And the profitability is used to measure management effectiveness based on the returns generated from the loans and investment. So the important profitability ratio for the banks are known as ROA or return on assets. So ROA is used to measure effectiveness company in generating profits by utilizing assets it has. ROA is the ratio between profit before the tax to the total assets. So the profit before tax will describe the amount of profit the company received in its operational activities, including tax costs, so that the analysis will focus on operational profitability by the measure company performance. The greater the ROA has shows the company's performance the better, because the rate of returns is getting better, is getting bigger. So this is the following of picture which shows the movement of ROA of conventional commercial banks from 2017 until 2021. So as we can see, this is the decreasing in December 2020, and uh, which is has been sharp decline in the last 2 years, in December 2020 until the December 2021, which is to be expected due to the weakening of the economy after the emergency of the COVID-19 virus at the end of 2019. So the COVID-19 pandemic has which is a virus originated in the city of Wuhan and in short time spread to almost all countries in the world. So WHO officially declared that the COVID virus is a global pandemic on March 20 and 22. So this statement has had a multi-sectoral impact, and as a result of which this condition has affected by the economy both globally and domestically by January and as last year 2020. So Octavia and Manda also state that there may be the three risks that the bank will face during the COVID-19 pandemic, namely credit risks, market risks, and liquidity risks. Because the condition of the COVID-19 has a negative impact both directly on or indirectly on economic activity in Indonesia, on performance banking and state financial system stability. And performance banking through the world ROA, which decreased 34 percentage on year in number 1.559 in December 2020 means that the banking profits follow decrease due to the weakening of the national economy. As a company engaged in finance business activities, banking is closely related to this because it involves money management associated that plays in the various forms of investment. So the company banks must be able to apply risk management. Risks faced by the bank can also increase influence by economic conditions in general macro such as inflation, monetary policy, and money market volatility. One of the main banking activity that is close related to risk is credit. Credit is distributed to the debtors in accordance with the contract agreement that has been agreed. And in this case, the debtor gets trust from the bank so that the debtor has an obligation to pay according to the payment period. And in extended credit, banks will face credit risk. That risk credit is the risk faced by the bank on the failure of the debtor or other parties to in fulfilling an obligation to the bank. So maybe the COVID-19 has had an impact against individual debtor, maybe a business entity. So maybe the credit risk increase reflected in the increase in the percentage of the non-performing loan. So increase in this percentage shows the total problems loans experienced by conventional commercial banks engagement. Even so, this figure is still within safe limits national level of soundness of the bank in accordance with regulation issued by the Bank Indonesia. By the NPL ratio shows the percentage of the bad loans compared to the with total credit that has been given, so that is useful in analyzing bank healthy. The high NPL ratio makes the banks have to set aside a reserve fee according to the credit collectibility, which matters. This will erode by the bank's profits. Therefore, the bank must make efforts in maintain credit quality by applying the principle of prudence or often referred to the prudential banking in the providing credit in the debtor. In the world of banking, debtors have credit score level, which credit score information owned by the debtor is recorded in the service system financial information or as known as LIC. And there are 5 collectibility, which category as the debtor will always pay principal and interest with on time. It's categorized by the collectibility 1 and collectibility 2 in special mention, namely category debtors who are in payments between 1 until the 19 days. And the collectibility 3 are standard debtors who are payment principal and interest between 91 until 120 days. And collectibility 4 or doubtful is who debtor will make a payment from above the 120 until 180 days. And the collectibility 5, the last one, is the debtor is in payment principal or maybe the interest may more than 180 days. So debtor included in the collectibility 3, 4, and 5 category as non-performing loans for the banks. So in addition to credit risk faced by the bank also need to monitor movement of liquidity risk. Liquidity is the bank's ability to meet their maritime financial obligation, and the bank liquidity proxy by the loan to deposit ratio or LDR reflect the percentage of the total credit disbursement and by the third-party funds. And if the LDR ratio is low, it indicates performance bank have not maximized in extending credit because there are still uninvested in idle funds. In contrast, the LDR ratio is high, indicates that the bank per- at in the indicates that the banking performance and distribution credit is optimal, but lending activities yang high may increase the consequence of the credit risk that must be borne by the bank. And based on the provision of Bank in Indonesia, it recommended that the LDR range is between 85 until 100%, so that the bank do not only rely on income from interest, like a population bond and other instrument. During the COVID-19 pandemic, credit growth has not in line with the growth in third-party funds, thereby hurting liquidity. Banking is still loose at the level of 70.49, and the bank must have good performance to gain the trust of customers who want to invest in their funds in the bank. And another addition, uh, between the credit and liquidity risk, banks also actively manage their capital in accordance with applicable regulations. Because the main goal is to ensure that the bank can maintain its capital adequacy to cover inherent risks and the banking activities without to reduce the optimization of shareholder value. So the capital level is one indicator to analyze the soundness of the bank or the healthiness of the bank. And OGK regulates the minimum capital requirement is can be calculated using the capital adequacy ratio mean, or the capital adequacy ratio will be represent the bank's ability to meet its fund obligation and can be used as reserve to control risk values. To calculate the critical ratio, namely by comparing capital with the risk-weighted assets or RWA. And in the world of the banking, asset can be categorized into the asset productive and non-productive assets. That the productive asset can be interpreted as a provision funds for the banks in their effort to obtain income in the form of credit, letters, securities, fund placements. Derivative claims to other investment, while non-productive assets are assets of the bank in the form of foreclosed assets. So maybe in the starting January 1 in 2020, the bank has implemented the PSAK 71 regarding financial instrument in its financial reports. So this PSAK replaced the PSAK, the before PSAK is which 55 was adopted from the international accounting standard. And the most difference between the 71 and 55 is the method of calculating the allowance for impairment losses as we know as CKPN. And in the context of banking, CKPN is reserved by the bank to face the risk of impairment loss. And PSIK 71, the bank using the expected loss method, which is forward-looking. According to the regulator, the expected loss method requires bank to estimate the estimated risk of the financial instrument since the initial recognition using forward-looking information such as growth rate, projection economy, inflation, unemployment rate, or maybe the commodity price in each reporting that. And this expected loss method will make the bank more prepared to face credit risk and maintain the bank's position in a safe condition. So basically, banking is a profit company engaged in the financial sector with the aim of obtaining the profit from its business activities. The profitability is an indicator of successful banking performance influenced by the bank's ability to manage various risks. Thus, risks can be analyzed using the calculation of ratio banking such as an NPL, LDR, and CAR, and development of this mindset in line with research conducted by the Octaviani and Andriani. And as for the research, the auditor at receiver in impairment loss as CKPN as the moderating variable of the effect of NPL, LDR, and CAR to banking profitability. So The next is research question. In this research, the number one is to know, do NPL have an impact on the profitability of banking company? Second one is does the LDR have an influence on the profitability of banking company? And the third is does the capital adequacy ratio have an influence of the profitability of banking company? Can the allowance for impairment loss moderate the relationship between NPL and profitability? The fifth is can the allowance for impairment loss moderate the relationship between the LDR and the profitability? And number six is can the allowance for impairment loss moderate the relationship between the capital adequacy ratio and the profitability? Next is the research purposes on this research is knowing the effect of NPL on profitability. And number second, knowing the effect of LDR on profitability. The third is knowing the effect of capital adequacy ratio on profitability. The fourth is knowing the effect of allowance for impairment loss, which moderates the relationship of NPL to the profitability. The fifth is knowing the effect of allowance for impairment loss, which moderate relationship between the LDR and the profitability. And the last one is knowing the effect of allowance for impairment losses, which moderates the relationship of capital adequacy ratio to the profitability of banking companies. And there is a benefit of the research that I hope this research will be support and prove the previous theory as a theoretical benefit. And for the practical benefits, especially for a company, it can be useful in providing information on the company's financial performance in the form of an overview of the soundness of the bank, so to increase customer confidence in the bank's performance. And for customer, maybe this research will become the basis of information in analyzing the level of banking soundness and banking performance. For investor, it can be useful to evaluating the performance of the banking company and providing an assessment of the soundness of the bank as a basis for decision making. And the last one for academic, it can be useful to add knowledge in scope of accounting science and become literature for further research. So we're in chapter 2 as the literature review. The first one is about signal theory. So, a step taken by the company's management with the intention of providing guidance investor about how to see the company's future opportunities. A signal given by the management are in the form of information present through statements, notes, or description of the company so that the information is important for the investors or interest parties in making decisions. And in the bank's financial statement, good financial performance will signal better bank the growth. The relationship between this theory and financial performance provides a good answer to the reduced information asymmetry that occurs between the management and shareholders or maybe the investors. So it can be said that the signal theory is a step that carried out by the company management with the intention of providing guidance to investors about how to see the company's future opportunities. According to the Besley and Brangham in Umayaksa, information that published as an announcement will provide a signal for investor. The signal given by the management in the form of information present through information, notes, or maybe description to the company so that the information important for investor or interest parties such as customer and consideration makes a decision. And we're going to the profitability. So, the profitability, as known as an indicator of the financial performance measure that reflects the company ability or capacity to generate income from its operational activities. And the profitability ratio, the size of the company's profit, can be measured by based on the rate of return on assets and other research so that it will reflect the level of efficiency of the company. Assessment of the profitability of the banking company can be done through the return on asset (ROA) ratio So the LOA is useful for focusing on the analysis of the company's ability to obtain revenue from the company's operations. The greater the LOA generated, the better the performance of the bank due to the greater the rate of return. So the profitability can be monitored by the to remain stable and increase to the top priority that must be done by every company, including as well with the bank. And we're going to the risk management. So this regulator explained that the banks are required to implement risk management effectively. Implementation of the banking risk management includes active supervision of the board of directors and the board of commissioners, adequacy of risk management policies and procedures, and setting of risk limits. Adequacy of risk identification, measurement, monitoring, and control process, as well as a comprehensive risk management information system and internal control the system. And risk can be defined as an effect or consequence that can occur, an ongoing process or event that will come. And this is the theory about the variable that I use in this research. The first one is about um I want to explain first about the risk management, which is uh can be a risk from the banking business activities. It's there are eight risks, which is the first one is credit risk, market risk, liquidity risk, operational risk, legal risk, reputation risk, strategic risk, and the last one is compliance risk. And based on description of the risk management above, then there is the four main risks faced by the banks and can be explained through calculation of banking financial ratio, including credit risk associated with the increased debtor risk of default, and many more. So the first one, which is credit risk, and represented by the non-performing loan ratio, is the ratio of the non-performing loans or bad loans by the total loans. That loan that are categorized as the non-performing loan are based on the level of collectibility of the debtor in paying interest and principal installment of the obligation to the bank. And so NPL is used to determine the value of the debtor's default risk in paying off interest and principal installment of obligation to the bank. NPL it also serves to determine the bank's capability in dealing with the risks of debt payment method by debtors. So the next one is about loan to deposit ratio, or as known as LDR, is the ratio of the amount of credit extended by to the public with the amount of public funds. The greater the funds that can be obtained by the bank, the greater the bank's ability to extend the credit. So the bank will grow their profit by the extending credit. The amount of income earned by the bank doesn't guarantee it will obtain a large profit, maybe, because if all funds are used for the granting credit is expensive. Putranto explained that LDR is a ratio that measures the distribution of the fund in the form of credit using funds that have been collected from the parties beside the bank, which also explained that the ratio for measuring liquidity is the bank to meet the funds withdrawn by the public through savings, deposits, and demand deposits. LDR is the liquidity ratio used for measuring level of the liquidity in the bank. LDR is the ratio to measure the composition of the amount of credit compared to the amount of the funds society and the use of their own capital. It's known that the ability of the bank channel to funds to third parties will collected by the bank concerned. And the third is capital adequacy ratio is defined by the ratio to show all bank activity that contain risks such as equity loans, security, and claim for the other banks to be financed from the bank's capital. CAR are the ratio to the ability of entity in the field of capital that can be used to cover the bank's losses in terms of credit and all forms of operational activity of the bank entity by the means of giving bank income such as interest. CAR is known as the minimum capital adequacy requirement. It's the capital ratio that shows ability that the bank to provide funds as goal and growing business development and accommodate the risk of loss of funds caused by the bank operations. So as for the components, bank capital can be described as follows: core capital or common equity tier 1, and the second is additional core capital. The third one is supplementary capital. So the bank are required to provide core capital at least 6% of the lowest LVA and the main core capital. LVA calculation is obtained by the total value of each bank's asset after multiplied by the each asset or weight. According to definition, CAR is comparison ratio total bank capital to raise wage assets as follow. Ethnicity's opinion said that the CAR figure is a bank solvency risk level indicator. And the last one is allowance for impairment losses. Uh, Allowance for impairment losses represent an allowance paid for impairment losses of financial instrument based on expected credit loss in accordance with the financial accounting standard regarding the financial instrument. Based on the degree of the Board of Directors of Bank Indonesia, establishment of the allowance right-of earning asset which obligate all the banks to the managed risk of productive asset by the maintaining quality as well. Establishment of allowance for possible losses on assets to minimize potential losses. In PSAK 71, based on low to high risk levels which are divided into the three stages, that classification of JKPN PSAK 71 as follows. The first is stage 1 or performing, which is in the stage there is no increase in credit risk and financial assets. For example, loans that are never late in payment, so that the risk of default in category small expected credit loss is estimated within 12 months. Stage 2 is underperforming. At this stage, credit risk financial asset increase significantly, and for example, a loan that has been late in payment above 30 days, but not yet included in the stage 3 criteria, expected credit loss estimate until the final maturity or lifetime. And the last one is stage 3 or non-performing. So there is the previous research in this research, which is the by Mustafa and Sulstiwati, that state NPL has an impact on profitability, ROA, but the CAR and LDR have no impact on profitability. Christiana, 2019, LDR has no effect on ROA, but the allowance for impairment loss put by the LLP state there is no influence between the establishment of allowance for impairment loss on the profitability. Stephen et al. Has stated that NPL has a negative and significant effect on profitability, but the CAR and LDR have a positive and significant effect on ROE. Forsyth Mustanda state that NPL has significant negative effect on ROA, but the CAR and LDR have no effect on ROA. Vanessa Muktiaji and Hendrian state that LDR has an effect on ROA, while the CAR and NPL have no effect on ROE. Putranto, Kristanti, and Mohandika state that CAR has a positive effect, NPL has negative effect, while LDR has no effect on ROA. Susilawati and Nurul Rahmatia state that NPL has a significant effect on ROA, LDR has no significant effect on ROA. Anggari and Dana state that CAR has a positive and significant effect on profitability. LDR has a non-significant positive effect on profitability. Dewi and Indrani has insignificant positive effect on CKPN. LDR has a positive and insignificant effect on CKPN, and NPL has a significant positive effect on CKPN. Nugroho, Arif, dan Halik influence both partially and simultaneously on CAR, but the CAR has no significant effect on the CAR. Ambuning Tias has stated that CAR has a significant effect on CKPN, LDR has a significant positive effect on CKPN. The last one is Palialu and Murang state that CKPN on bank profitability or ROA has positive but non-significant effect. So there is the theoretical framework in this research. Because in order to present information in the form of notes, description, as well as other important data in published financial reports or external parties that indicate the manager's move to provide a signal of guidance to the party regarding how in this theoretical framework, a large campaign will make the funds used for overcoming the risk of loss is also greater. But at that time, the campaign has decreased, the funds used to cover credit problems will decrease, so there is no need additional capital so that it can make profits and bank performance will to be better. To determine the impact on the independent variable and variable independent on a study, a frame of mind is needed, which is use the basis of research. And based on this figure, the study used variable independent from NBL, LDR, and CAR, and the dependent variable in this study is LOA. As in the study, a moderating variable was added in the form of CKPN. So we're going to hypothesis development, which result the NPL has a significant negative effect on LOA. LDR has a significant positive effect on LOA. The CAR has a significant positive effect on LOA. For allowance for impairment losses significantly moderates the effect of NPL on LOA. Allowance for impairment loss significantly moderates the effect of LDR on LOA. The last one is allowance for impairment loss significantly moderates the effect of CAR in LOA. And we're going to the chapter 3 about the research methods. So there is analysis of units. The unit of analysis is something related to the object research and can be individuals, group, organization, region, to the test of the hypothesis according to the subject matter. And this analysis units, the object of this research are the banking company listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange or in IDX for the period 2020 until 2021. The population determined in the study in the all banking company that go public on the Indonesia Stock Exchange totaling 46 company. But the population is the generalization area that the object belongs to the same characteristic. And the last one is the sample. The sample is the part of the population where the sample taken must be representative of the population. In research in this case, the sample used are several banking companies already listed on the IDX for the period 2020 until 2021. And determining the sample size using the purposive method sampling. The purpose of sampling method is a sampling technique. Sample data is sourced with certain considerations. The sample criteria the company to be listed as the first is the banking company that go public and are still registered as users on the IDX in 2020 until 2021. The second is banking company that post profits during the period observations. The third one is the banking company that have included the value of the NPL variable LDR current GKPN in full for the reporting year in the observations. So the next one is data collection technique. This study use secondary data because the data obtained indirectly or through intermediary. Data collection in study comes from the Indonesian Stock Exchange through the website, which is the official website on the IDX or the official website of the company to be investigated. From the source obtained, research will be processed and calculating the value of research variable so that the formulation will be achieved the problem. So we're in the variable operationalization. The first one is dependent variable. So the profitability is proxed by the return on asset, measuring the level of profitability to determine the company's ability to gain profits with the help of its total assets. And the formula is laba sebelum pajak dibagi dengan rata-rata total aset kalikan 100%. And next is the independent variable. The X1 is non-performing loan or NPL, that the ratio between non-performing loan and the total loan granted by the bank. And the formula adalah kredit dalam kualitas kurang lancar, diragukan dan macet dibagikan dengan total kredit dikalikan 100%. X2, loan to deposit ratio or LDR. The liquidity ratio used to measure the third-party fund channel in the form of credit. The formula is kredit dibagi dengan dana pihak ketiga dikali 100%. Next is variable operationalization. Each independent variable, the X3 capital adequacy ratio, that capital whose function is to assist bank in accommodating various risks of the losses that may occur. Formulanya is the total model dibagi dengan ATMR dikali 100%. For the moderating variable, we use the allowance for impairment losses. Research method by the bank in facing the risk of loss resulting from the investment in productive assets. Formula is CKPN aset keuangan dibagi total aset produktif dikalikan 100%. So there is analysis technique. The first one is about descriptive statistical analysis are used in the data analysis in the way to describe or the data collected in without any intent to generalize the data. Second one is the panel data regression analysis. Regression analysis used to determine the causal relationship effect between the variable of non-performing loans. Then we are going to the model selection test, which is a test between a fixed common effect model or chain, fixed effect model or theme, and the last one is random effect model. Next one is classic assumption test. We're going to normality test, multicollinearity test, heteroscedasticity test, and the last one we're going to hypothesis test. The first one is statistical test, partial significant test, the coefficient of determination. The next is chapter 4, results and discussion. In this, and the first is descriptive statistical analysis. The first is descriptive statistical analysis. The table 1 shows that descriptive statistical analysis shows the each variable have a mean, median, maximum, minimum, standard deviation, and description is any in this site. As you can see, the first is the LOA variable that has a minimum value of 1.5, and the NPL has a minimum value 0.0000000 first 109, while the maximum value is 6.8. The LDR variable has a minimum value of 12.35, while the maximum value is 241.9. The car variable has a minimum value of 14.36, while the maximum value is 200.57. And the last one, Chikapan variable has a minimum value of 0.04. So I added the frequency distribution. The frequency distribution is a list of data value. Both individual data and data has the mean growth, certain interval or class of intervals accompanied by the corresponding frequency value for that class. The frequency distribution will provide a special description of the diversity of the data in research. And this is the histogram graphic that shows each variables in graphic ways. The first is LOA, LTR, Chikapan, NBL, and the car. Next one is classical assumption test results. The first is normality test. That figure 2 shows the normality test results. And from the results of the normality test above, it can be seen that the probability value is 0.89, which means that it exceeds the significant level of 0.05. This shows that the residual data in this regression are normally distributed. The second one is the multicollinearity test. The table 2 shows the multicollinearity test results. It is known that the correlation coefficient between independent variables is under 0.85, so the research data doesn't have multicollinearity problems. The last one is heteroscedasticity test, and the table 3 shows the heteroscedasticity test results. And based on the results of the heteroscedasticity test, it is known that the probability f has a value above 0.05. So in this data, there were no symptoms of the heteroscedasticity. The next one is about model selection test. We're going to the first is the code test. First is common effect models, and the regression model selection test results show the two tests, which is the first is code test, and the final decision is can be used by the fixed effect model. And next, the Hausman test, and the final decision it can use by the fixed effect model. Then we're going to the panel data regression analysis test result. The first is without moderation, and the table 4 shows that the result of multiple linear regression analysis without the moderation. So the regression equation is this. And the table 5 shows the result of multiple linear regression analysis with the moderation. And the regression equation is this. We're going to the hypothesis test. The first is determination coefficient test. The table 6 shows the test result for the coefficient of determination. Based on the table above, it can be seen that the adjusted R-squared value is 0.86. This means that the variables NPL, LDR, CAR, and GKPN, the interaction of NPL with GKPN, the interaction of LDR with GKPN, and CAR with GKPN can explain the LOA variable of 86.0.75%, while the remaining that is influenced by the other variables that not included in this research. The next one is simultaneous tasks by the dummy variables, and the table 7 shows the simultaneous task results. And based on the table on the side, it can be seen that the probability value is 0.0 is under 0.05, meaning that NPL, LDR current checkup simultaneously affect on LOA, and the data is suitable for use in research. This partial test shows that table 8 partial test results for basis to be discussion. And the last one is about discussion that the effect of NPL on LOA. So based on the result of this study, it was found that the non-performing loan has a significantly positive effect on LOA. So H1 or hypothesis 1 was rejected because hypothesis 1 shows that NPL had a significantly negative effect on LOAs, but the result of the study was found that NPL had a significantly positive effect on LOA that different. But the non-performing loan is a ratio banking that shows the ratio of non-performing loans to the total loans. Next is the effect of LDR on LOA. So based on the hypothesis testing that has been done, proving that there is a significant positive effect between the variable loan to deposit ratio and return on assets. The second hypothesis can be accepted. This means that increasing of the LDR of the bank will increase the bank's profitability as represented by the LOA. Which causes bank performance to increase and appropriate, so that the bank will have adequate capacity to disbursing credit that can increase the bank's income. The LDR describes the bank's operational liquidity management, where most of the funds managed by the bank come from the third parties from the community in several forms such as savings, deposit, and checking accounts. And other deposit and will be returned accordingly to the due. So Increase in the LDR ratio can potentially increase profits to the bank through increasing the credit that was successfully dispersed. The result of this study also support the result of previous studies conducted by the Stephen et al., which show that LDR has significant positive effect on profitability. The result of this study that are not in line with the result of previous studies by Mustafa and Sulistyawati, Christiana and Putranto. Next is the effect of CAR on LOA. That the result of this study indicate that the CAR has a significantly positive effect on the LOA of the sample of the bank. So the third hypothesis can be accepted. The next is Jacobian moderate the effect of NPL on the result shows that the allowance for impairment loss was able to moderate the effect of non-performing loan on return on assets, so the fourth hypothesis was accepted. Jacobian moderates the effect of LDR on LOA that based on the result, the person of Jacobian has not been able to moderate the effect of LDR on LOA, so the fifth hypothesis is rejected. The last one is Jacobian moderates the effect of CAR on LOA, and based on the research result, Jacobian has not been able to moderate the effect of the CAR on LOA, so the sixth hypothesis is rejected. And we're going to the closing chapter, is chapter 5. This research was conducted to examine the effect of NPL, LDR, and capital adequacy ratio to profitability with allowance for impairment loss as moderating variable of banking company list on the IDX during the 2020 and 2021 period using the secondary data and obtain a sample of 33 company that meet the criteria from a population of 46 firms. Based on the hypothesis, task, and discussion that has been described previously, then it can be concluded that the result that the non-performing loan have a significant positive effect on LOA. LDR has a significant positive effect on LOA. Capital adequacy ratio has a significant positive effect on LOA. Allowance for impairment losses value is able to moderate the effect of non-performing loan on LOA negatively. Allowance for impairment loss is unable to moderate the effect of the LDR and capital adequacy ratio on return on assets. The implication is this study in theoretical field are to add insight and knowledge, especially on the performance banking company, and prove the linkage of deep technical theory presentation of financial statement by the banking companies through the ratio and financial ratio used as benchmark for the soundness of the bank. The result of this study also add to empirical evidence research that examines the profitability of banking company with related variables such as NPL, LDR, and capital adequacy ratio. The practical implication can be referenced to for those who want to invest or deposit fund in the banking by seeing how the bank performance as well as the soundness level of the bank, which is reflected through the ratio of non-performing loan, bank liquidity levels, and required bank capital available to deal with the risk resulting from the investing in asset productive. There is correlation between the NPL and performance finance as well as how the banks managing their lending. The aim is to expand its business activity and maintain minimum capital owned in order to be able to face the risks that arise from the bank's operational activity that can be focus of investor and invest as customer who want to save funds in the bank. Furthermore, the existence of the research vessel can be input of the bank company in providing information about the financial performing company that can provide an overview of the soundness of the bank through increasing customer confidence in banking performance. Research limitation. At the time of conducting research, researchers have several limitations, including the following. First is the study only measured the effect of the ratio of non-performing loan-to-deposit ratio, and capital adequacy ratio to profitability with allowance for impairment losses as the moderating variable in the banking company list on the IDX in 2020 until 2021, so that the other variable outside this variable have no implication in the study, and the condition of the company period outside the sample the study may yield different results. There are still limited previous studies using the variables allowance for impairment loss as the moderating variable, so that the reference to prove the theory in research are very few. So this is the recommendation for the next researcher. The next researcher can add a research period for get better and more accurate results. Future research can expand the sample period and criteria by including all the banking company, including bank, people's credit, and Sharia business units. Further research can add the other research variable that may have an influence of the profitability of such banking net interest margin, cost to income, compliance, and level credit distributions. So that's it from me in this final result of my research for my thesis. So I hope this research can be bring benefit for the attention. Thank you so much.